I'm Nica Reynolds-Hunter, and this is my book presentation for Nursing Leadership at the University of Texas at Arlington. Now, the book that I chose for my book review is by Daniel Pink. The title is Drive, What Motivates Us. Just a little about the author. Mr. Pink is a graduate of Northwestern University. He's also a graduate of Yale Law School, where he was the chief editor of the law policy. He also was the chief speechwriter for Vice President Al Gore and served in many, many organizations in Washington, D.C., where he currently resides with his family. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about the purpose of his book. One of the things that he wanted to do was change the business world, thinking that the best way to motivate is with rewards. Like, the best way to motivate is not with rewards such as money, but to motivate your subordinates, your non-management people, to be creators and innovators. Another thing he said in the book that reference a lot of us and how we see work and a means to an end and so forth. One of the things he says is that validation that is high performance and satisfaction at work, school, and at home, he claims it's a deep human need to direct our lives and create new things to do better, and not only for ourselves, but in the world. So we all want to make a difference in the world. We all want to be validated at work. But there's a deep need, he's saying, a deep-seated need that we have as workers in the workforce, as human beings, that we want to contribute to that organization. He claims that the carrot stick approach does not work in today's world because there's so many challenges that we have to be innovators. For instance, like the information age. And one of the things he also talked about in the book as far as purpose is that way back in the 19th century, we worked for survival. In the 20th century, we worked to please people and to achieve things. But in the 21st century, now the information age, what we want to do is create an environment where there's autonomy, where each worker is able to think for themselves, do for themselves, and that way they have a little more freedom to create things, to contribute things to the organization. Okay? Now let's talk about his target audience. Mr. Pink referred to the target audience in his book as business leaders, managers, companies with a corporate structure, vice presidents, and so forth. Those were his target audiences, especially for American companies. He wanted them to engage their non-management employees in a way that would motivate them to do so much better. He also wanted to create innovators, talented and motivated workers to do well and to achieve their highest goals within a company. And he referred to autonomy as the way to do it. Okay, now let's focus on the strengths of this book. What he wanted to do, one of the strengths is that he wanted to demonstrate to the business world that people have higher drives that could benefit a business. So businesses and managers needed to tap into that drive, that higher need that people have. And if they can tap into it, that particular organization or that particular business would flow. There would be a purpose. They would have a purpose if that can happen within the company. Another strength is that he implied that the best motivator is to pay people enough to take the issue of money off the table. That means that when you have the autonomy and the freedom to think and create and be an innovator, the money is not going to matter. What's going to matter is your self-achievement and how you can contribute to that company. And that's one of the ideas that I liked, which is, something that we all probably would like to do. Instead of thinking about just the money, that we want to think about how we can create, how we can be better, how we can be achievers. Okay? An example he used is the success of Google. 20% of the Google workers, their work is done at the desk. 20%. 80% of their work is done in playrooms, game rooms, doing other things within the company. Only 20% of their work that they get done is done at their work. The creativity, the intense artisticness, the innovativeness, everything about the employees there takes place for that 80% of time that they're in the game room, doing something else, and so forth. So that's what he was trying to get at, is as motivating and autonomy and giving people freedom to think, and so forth. Now let's talk about shortcomings. One of the things, quickly, the shortcomings was a lot of the information was redundant. But he made some examples, like with Tom Sawyer, rewards and punishment. And one of the things, too, is that he embraced the idea that a lot of companies will take on his 3 terms of essential motivation, which is autonomy, mastery, and purpose. But it will be hard in my opinion, for companies to do that if they're going by the status quo. But that's one of the things he wanted to get across or come across, or he believed that companies will embrace it in the 21st century, which is left to be seen. Okay, author's objective. The author's objective, I think he achieved his objective. One of the things he said is that his ideology and his work would show more creativeness and less work, routine. Work is a routine for us, for most of us. But what he wanted to get across, it should be a creative adventure for us instead of just routine. And another thing he pointed on was the fact that the purpose of maximization is taking its place among profit maximization. So he's saying when you maximize a person's potential, you don't worry about the profit will come into place, because you're maximizing the person's potential, you're motivating them, you're lighting the fire under them to do better, to do more, to be creative, to be innovators, and so forth. Okay? So I think that was good. And one of the examples he used was the fact that in this day and age, in the 21st century, there's so many telecommuters. There's 37 million telecommuters. That means a lot of managers and organizations are trusting their workers to be autonomous, to be home or be telecommute, to create, and so forth. So that's one of the things which I thought was good. And I believe his philosophy is becoming, like a precedent in a lot of these companies, the American companies. Okay? All right. Let's talk about recommendations. I would recommend this book to upper management, managers, nursing leaders. It's a very good book for the 21st century to lead us into the next couple of years to be innovators, because there's so much competition and every company has its unique way of doing things. But I do recommend that companies that go by the status quo can use this book, can get some ideas how to run a company better, how to do better, how to be better there for their non-management employees, and just to be accomplish goals that the organizations want. When you do that, there's a purpose. There's a purpose to the organization. There's a purpose to the business plan, and I believe that's what Mr. Pink was trying to get at. So thank you very much, and good night.